Okay, welcome to Exposure, week 12, 12 weeks of doing this. And my commitment was to do this every week until my next birthday, which is in June. I have probably like 24 weeks left. Yeah, a part of me wants to stop this project. A part of me wants to stop this, I think, because, I know why. Because this isn't getting the sort of attention I had hoped it would get. Though also I want to emphasize that the ultimate goal here is for me to achieve more freedom. This is called exposure in the sense of an OCD exposure, where you expose yourself to the thing you're afraid of so that it loses its power over you. And the thing that exerts a lot of control over me, particularly my creative life, is perfectionism. And one obvious manifestation of that is I don't put out a lot of stuff because it's not perfect. So by doing something very imperfect every week, I hope to get freedom from that. And that has been working. But of course, there's a part of me that wants people to love this, because there's a part of me that wants people to love everything I do. And I think that comes down to some sort of unconditional love I am unable or unwilling to give myself. But I also don't want to pathologize that. I think that's being human. I think if you're honest, you realize we're all imperfect. We're all imperfect. And yeah. All right. But here we are. By we, I mean me. I don't know who else is watching this. I've covered up my screen so I can't see that. And more importantly, so I can't see myself. But yeah, this last week, something is hitting me fully that for the first time, but it should have been hitting me a long time ago. But of course, the reason it didn't hit me fully before was because I didn't allow it to, because it's too scary. I'm speaking in very vague terms. Let me be specific. Yeah, I'm just realizing, this is an interesting one. I'm feeling, the perfectionism is very, very strong in this moment. And this has been a challenge with all of these, but yeah. Okay, good. This is a good exposure. It's a good exposure. This is how I get freedom. What's really hitting me this week is something that's very, very obvious, but that I'd been in complete denial about, which is things may not work out for me professionally. I may not have the career I want. And if you look at the number of people who are viewing this or the number of views or likes, you probably won't disagree with that assessment. Yeah, just really taking stock of where I'm at now and recognizing the statistical probability or lack of probability that someone at my age is suddenly going to turn things around. And let me be clear, I don't want huge success. I don't want to be famous, but I want to have a comfortable career. I want to have the sort of career that it seemed like I was on track for really like 8 or 9 years ago, and things have, I would say, leveled out. Obviously I took a big step back during the pandemic. I wasn't performing, and I think everyone did. So in a sense, that was treading water. But yeah, my career has not rebounded post-pandemic. And the truth is, I've never really had the success I wanted. And by success, I simply mean reaching more people. Man, I am struggling with this now. About 30% of my attention is on what I'm saying. And the remainder is this voice telling me, why am I doing this? This sucks. I feel very uncomfortable right now. More uncomfortable. So I've been doing these typically as videos I film, and then I post them. And often I'll do I won't do a few full takes, but I'll start the video several times and stop it after 30 or 40 seconds before I finally do it. And one reason I wanted to do these as a live is so that it cuts off that escape route for me. So I just have to let it roll. But I will say, if this were not alive, I would just stop this right now and start again. But I guess that's the point, is there's no fucking stakes here. No one is really watching this. This is for me. So yeah, what do I really want to share? And yeah, I want to share openly what's happening. And what's happening is, again, me realizing oh shit, things may not work out for me. things probably won't work out for me. The number of people who were at my stage in their career at my age and then reached a significantly higher level of success, I would say is vanishingly small. Yeah, I've acted like, oh, it's just around the corner, or not really just around the corner, because it did feel like I had good momentum. Like I started doing stand-up 15 years ago, and a few years after that, I started doing the Mushroom Cure, and immediately, the first festival I did, the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, it got a lot of very positive reviews. And then a couple of years later, I did the New York Fringe Festival, and it got more positive reviews and won an Overall Excellence Award. And then a couple of years after that, I did a standalone independent run at Cherry Lane Theater, and that got some nice attention. Yeah, I don't have to enumerate my reviews, but it seemed like things were on a good trajectory. And it's funny. So I won the Overall Excellence Award, as I mentioned, the New York Fringe Festival. And when I found out I won that award, my first thought was, well, this is actually sort of telling with what I want to get into. My first thought was, shoot, I don't want to be famous. Like I was going to get famous from an award in a literal fringe festival. But I think that's part of what I'm realizing. So I think part of the reason I haven't achieved more success is I'm not organized. I'm fairly chaotic. I'm very, very good at focusing on one thing. And when I have a show to do, when I'm writing, I'm in the groove. But trying to do what you have to do to have a successful career as an artist, and I would say most careers, which involves a lot of different things. You have to do your own branding and marketing and reaching out to theaters and coordinating schedules. That I'm not, I do not have a talent for that. In fact, I would say I have a notable lack of talent for that. And I've dropped balls. I haven't followed up on it on every opportunity. So I think that's part of it. I think that's a big part of it. And I think part of that, in turn, stems from the fact that I've often in the past, though less and less so, been in fairly intense emotional distress a good deal of the time. Specifically, just having a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear in my body a lot of the time. And when I'm in that state, a part of me has trouble thinking long term and has trouble doing things that are going to yield payoffs in the future. And often a big part of my brain just goes to, how can I feel better in this moment? And in the moment, it always feels better writing and creating than emailing some theater owner. And I think maybe that's why this is coming to the fore now, this realization is because I am getting a lot more freedom from the OCD, and I'd say my baseline anxiety is, it's certainly much lower than it's ever been before. And so I think that's allowing more space for me to take stock of things and realize, I'm not where I want to be. And this sort of very convenient, comforting idea that, well, it's you're moving in the right direction, it's happening. I can't afford that. I can't afford that. If I want things to change, I have to make them change. But the other realization I've had, and I shared this last week, is so I've been working with this book called Existential Kink now for probably about 6 months or so. And this book posits that basically situations that we suffer from, that we think we don't like, often at some level we do like it. At some level we get some sort of thrill from being lonely, from not having enough money, from even having health problems, this author would say. And yeah, when I saw this book, I was at a friend's place and the title drew me. It's a great fucking title, Existential Kink. And I opened it up and immediately this just kind of, it had a ring of truth to me. So I've been working with this and really exploring this possibility that a part of me doesn't want what I think I want. And I think part of why I'm very open to this is because I did find this to be true before I read this book in my personal romantic life. As I've shared before, I had on a mushroom trip a little more than a year and a half ago, I realized the reason I didn't have a deep relationship, even though I thought that's what I wanted most in the world, the reason I didn't have it was because I didn't really want it. A part of me wanted it, but a bigger part of me was afraid of it. And so I wasn't allowing myself to have that. And so I think there is some analog happening with my career. where, yeah, a part of me is afraid of more success. And I don't think that's even mysterious. It's like, yeah, I mean, let's look at the possibility of fame, which I don't think is a possibility for me. But like being really famous, that just seems like a horrible fucking life. Horrible life to lose your anonymity, to basically lose your privacy. I mean, there is nothing I value more than my privacy and solitude. And to lose that, to not be able to step outside of your own house without being accosted by people, just, it seems like almost the mirror image, but equally horrific of what I've always thought is the most barbaric punishment we dole out to people in this country, solitary confinement. Yeah, I don't know what's worse, being forced to be alone all the time or really never being able to be alone. So that obviously is an awful bargain. But, you know, even just a couple of steps beyond where I am, which still falls short of legitimate fame, yeah, just having, I mean, I've seen this, just, it's even in kind of ridiculous ways. Like when I have a show going up and it sells out, a part of me feels a little bit of anxiety because there's higher expectations now. There's more people I could potentially disappoint. There's more people there who are going to judge me. And obviously, I'm not playing stadiums. We're talking about 100-seat theaters, 150-seat theaters. And yeah, logically, does it really make a difference if there's 60 people there or 100 people there? No, but there is. I've noticed this for a while. A part of me, yeah, wants to not be seen, which is an odd thing to say when I'm doing this, but it is very, very true. But I'm going to die, and you're going to die. Time. That's the biggest thing I've been in denial about for a long time, is the fact that time passes and opportunities diminish. Opportunities diminish not even just because of ageism. Obviously, the entertainment industry favors younger people, but just because you have less time to explore different creative avenues and professional possibilities and personal possibilities. And I'm seeing this. I went hiking with my partner Anna a few days ago. I took a low dose of mushrooms, and I took these mushrooms on. I should know better. For me, the amount of food in my stomach with all psychedelics drastically affects the experience, especially mushrooms. And it wasn't like I'd gorged myself, but I didn't have an empty stomach. And as a result, and this always happens with mushrooms, there's a feeling not only of physical unease, but also kind of an emotional unease. It was, again, a low dose. I wasn't having like a bad trip or anything, or even a particularly challenging experience, but I just kind of, yeah, what I really felt was kind of cut off from my heart. Just this sort of free-floating anxiety. And, but we had a nice experience, you know, in the woods. How can you not? With this woman I love. And these experiences are always kind of, they bring up something in me because I had so many of these experiences alone and so many of these times alone thinking, oh, this is wonderful being in nature. If only there was someone I could share it with. And now I have someone I could share it with. And it's wonderful. But it also serves to highlight the many, many years when I didn't have someone. And I see that more and more as a form of almost a violence I did to a part of myself. Really. I mean, it was 20 years or 19 years before I got into this relationship, since my previous, the last really significant relationship, the last time I fully opened my heart to a woman was 19 years before this relationship, current relationship began. And the joy I get from this relationship, it's shadowed in a way with this morning that, yeah, I deprived myself of this for so long. And there was an analogy I wanted to draw with my career. I'm also going to look at the time because I want to make these shorter. These have been rather long. Well, I'll just finish the story. We were driving home after this hike, and I was DJing, you know, on Spotify, and I put on a song I hadn't listened to for a long time, a song I associated with sort of the last of these lonely years. I can tell you the song, Sleep in Splendor by a band called Kaya, Calla. I really don't know the band. Spotify suggested this song years ago. It's very evocative for me. And this song came on, and I just started sobbing. Like really sobbing, a good sob, the best sob I'd had in a while. She's driving, I'm sobbing, and between sobs, I'm like, "Are you okay with this? I don't want to just put this on her." And she's like, "Yeah, of course." And I was just really mourning all of those years where I didn't have what I wanted because I didn't let myself have what I wanted. And yeah, maybe there's an element of that too. I don't know. The bottom line is, realizing that things may not work out the way, at least a part of me, because a part of me does want more success, of course. And I was interrogating this yesterday. I was like, why? Why is this important to me? And one reason is I don't want to have to get a day job. I haven't had a day job since 2017. I'd rather avoid that. But I don't think that's the primary reason. And then I was like, okay, is it, do I want respect? Do I want validation? Do I want adulation? And yes, of course, a part of me wants that, but I don't think that's primarily it. And when I really sort of looked at it, what I realized was, no, the reason why I want to reach more people is I feel like this is what I have to give. This is a way I can serve. I feel like, frankly, I'm doing something that is unique and special, and not everyone loves it, not everyone likes it. But yeah, there is not another show out there like The Mushroom Cure. And I don't mean content, I just mean the way it's, most people, maybe not most people, but many people after seeing that show, their response is, I've never seen anyone be this vulnerable, not just in public, in life. It's not a show, there's a lot of solo shows where people talk about very vulnerable things, but they're not actually showcased, they're not vulnerable in the moment. Like you don't really, you're not worried about them in the moment. And I think The Mushroom Cure, I'm willing to be very, very vulnerable in the moment. And I think that's something that people find helpful, seeing that. Because of course, we're all utterly vulnerable all the time, and we all try to deny it all the time. And you have to deny it a little bit to get through life. You can't just be walking around sobbing and, completely like an open wound constantly. But I think, trying to deny our vulnerability, particularly to ourselves, is, I think, one of the greatest sources of suffering for most humans, and certainly was a great source of suffering for me for many, many years. So I think seeing someone do that gives people permission in a way and encourages them and makes, I think, people feel less alone, because I know I can feel lonely when I feel like, am I the only person going through shit? No, you're going through shit too. We're all going through shit, but yet we don't really share that openly most of the time. So, I'm going to be honest, this has felt like the worst exposure I've ever done, which means it's the best exposure I've ever done from the perspective of, exposing myself to my fear of imperfectionism. But anyway, there was more I wanted to share, but I feel fairly inhibited right now. This is not flowing. Usually this just flows. This is not flowing. This is one thing I wanted to share when I look at my career. Is a part of me can look at it as a tragedy, that I feel like I have gifts and I have things to share that I haven't been able to share with even a tiny fraction of the people who I think would appreciate it. But another part of me can look at it like I've already won. What I mean by that is, I was so debilitated by obsessive compulsive disorder for so many years. I have so much freedom now. I have a good life now. And I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, it's a little bit like someone who, goes to prison. Let's say they're wrongfully imprisoned. Well, they get out of prison, they're finally freed, but they're not going to live the life they could have lived. That time is gone. Their possibilities are circumscribed. To deny that I've not paid a cost for the OCD would be pointless, and also kind of lacking compassion for myself in a way. We all have our challenges. I'm not saying mine are uniquely horrible, but I will say that, yeah, I was hamstrung for a very, very long time with this disease and related thought patterns and just avoidance mechanisms. So, and I have a fucking great life now. I mean, I'm in love. I'm in love. It's a magical, incredible, at times terrifying, but wonderful thing. I have a wonderful partner. I have a good life. And yeah, if this is as good as it gets from a career perspective, and if ultimately I have to pivot from this to something a little bit more pedestrian to pay the bills, that's not a tragedy. I can still have a good life. So, yeah, I think I'm going to end this one. I think this will be the shortest one. And again, it feels like the worst one. Yeah. All right. Well, that has been week 12 of a very, I wouldn't say very, but a somewhat painful, the most painful probably, but also, again, maybe for my own freedom, helpful exposure.